I'll get used to it.
Here we go. Thanks, everybody, and welcome to the Fargo City Parking Commission. Want to introduce our new member, Austin. Want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Austin Morris, one of the owners of Enclave Development in Fargo. Active in doing our best to find opportunities to develop real estate in downtown Fargo as well as Fargo, West Fargo, and surrounding communities around our region. So happy to be here and excited to be a part of this.
Yeah, thanks, Austin. So Debbie, you want to introduce yourself?
Debbie Ansrew, Planning Department.
Brian here, downtown property owner.
Mike Williams, Risk Manager.
Jay Krabanoff, Gate City.
Dave Pepcorn, Fargo City Commission.
Thanks, everybody. The first item is to approve the order of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the order?
So move.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next is to approve the minutes, meetings, May 30th and July 25th. Do I have a motion?
Is that the 25th? So move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. Next item is Vanessa and Paul with the Interstate Parking Report financial data.
Your mic isn't on. Thank you. And if you could move it a little closer to you, that'd be
Yes, I
awesome.
think it was on, it was just misdirected, so. Yeah, I'll lead the discussion in regard to the financials. If you've had a chance to review them, you'll notice a large deduction in revenue under the category Fargo, Legacy, and On-Street. We've been working with Steve Sprague and his department in the transition of the on-street citation system from Duncan to Passport companies. And it's been a little challenging, and we kind of discovered they were double paying us. They were paying us and also paying Steve. And we found that and corrected it and made the adjustment this month. So if you look at the bottom line for the month of September, it shows that net is down to $21,000, but that includes the adjustments that Steve and my team worked with to finally get these guys on the same page. So if you guys did have a chance to review that, that's the first thing that smacked me between the eyes when I was looking at it, but went through it and everything is good there. You know, if you look on our second page, it's got the year-to-date numbers for the system, and everything is going great. One thing that wasn't budgeted was the loss of almost 200 parkers at the Island Park ramp, which affected our bottom line to the tune of about $10,000 per month. But you know, so you factor that in, we're trending with the record numbers still, kind of led by Roco and Civic and the other downtown properties too. So if anybody has any questions on those, I'd be happy to ask them or answer this for you or discuss them with you. The third page is focusing just on the fourth page, I guess. I wanted to get up to find the Roco page. Maybe I already passed it, but just been analyzing Roco numbers quite a bit. They're ahead of budget, way ahead of our initial projections. Some of that is affected by the continuing construction workers downtown that have filled our garages for the past several months. But the numbers are much better than our initial projections a few years ago. So that's very gratifying to see. So if anybody has any questions on the financial aspects of it, we can talk about a couple operational things too that I wanted to bring to your attention.
So it's a little later in the program about the parking rates, but we annually, you know, evaluate where the most demand is and where, you know, the most, you know, and basically try to fit the charges to the demand. And that's some opportunities we have maybe to increase Island or Roco and make sure we're using Island Park and sell a lot of it. A lot of people are kind of, you know, the 2 hours free at Roco has actually generated more hourly revenue than the other ramps. So can you talk about that a little bit, Paul?
Yeah, it was kind of telling it. We were kind of pinning that on the construction workers were in the area. You know, after Block 9 opened up, most of those construction guys left, and our revenue, our transient/daily revenue is down about 60%. So, you know, we were averaging about $17,000 a month throughout the Block 9 construction. Now we're down to about $10,000 a month. And I think that's probably going to be a pretty good number to rely on going forward.
Right, so, you know, you're doing some projections with the Mercantile project, and I think that, you know, ROCO is gonna give us a baseline of what we might expect, and so, what do you see, you know, for Island Park as far as, you know, focusing more on promoting hourly parking, 2 hours free, and just creating more awareness?
Yeah, you know, that one is a tough one. It's tough to, now that Main Street is open again, that will help. A big factor will be price driven. As, you know, as we get a little later in the agenda today, we talk about proposed rate increases. There may be groups that decide they want to save $40, $50 a month to park, and Island Park is a great opportunity for them. You know, the possible new tenants that may come in to the Bank of the West building are certainly going to help Island Park a lot too, but prices to me are still low enough that it's not a huge determining factor where people park downtown yet. Location, convenience are still the driving factor where a lot of people choose to park. And so to get them to migrate to Island Park, price has to be a bigger factor, and that's when we talk about, you know, maybe increasing the prices on the higher demand stuff downtown and keeping theirs low or even lowering it as necessary.
Right, and with the new Main Avenue, I think that we're gonna, you know, hopefully see more residential, and, you know, we already have some mixed use, but hopefully more residential in that area too. So we're gonna hear about that more further down the line. Does anybody have any questions for interstate parking, Paul or Vanessa? Otherwise, thanks, Paul.
Well, I want to bring a couple operational things we've been analyzing. Before ROCO opened up, there's a lot of discussion about committing a certain number of spaces to the apartment units. And we, you know, we came up with some projections based on what we're seeing in other markets for residential, and analyzing what ROCO's usage is, it's proven to be right on. It's basically 60% of the people in a unit will rent a spot, and about 60% of those will be there during peak occupancy, which is between 10 and 1:30 on Monday through Friday. And so we studied that yesterday, and those numbers are right on. There's 66 out of the 72 units are rented right now. We have 42 contracts, and the most we've ever seen at peak time is 26 of those people in the garage at one time. The average is much less than that, but you have to factor or manage it around the peak occupancy. So those numbers have been right on. So it's great for us as we share those metrics from city to city, that we can rely on them going forward with residential and mixed-use projects.
There's still capacity at ROCO, right? Because one of the things that I hear about is the public, sometimes they don't realize that you don't have to rent a monthly space to use it, and that, you know, they said, well, there's only 50 public spots reserved, but that doesn't mean that's all there is available. So can you touch on that a little bit,
Yeah,
Paul, about the turnover?
Yeah, you're right. We analyze that quite often. It's general rule of thumb, if you have 100 monthly contracts during the day, 85 of them will be there at peak time, which means you can oversell. You have that 15% extra that you can utilize. So we're constantly looking at the numbers and the users to promote that turnover traffic. And it's very rare that we have to put a full sign on. If we do, it's going to be at ROCO and Civic, just because the demand is so high there for their close users. But as we constantly monitor that, we make recommendations on what the optimal number of contracts will be for us to rent and sell. And you know, with the goal of working with this group to make sure that we've got adequate turnover traffic for the visitors coming downtown.
Right. How was the equipment working? I was there one day when I took a chit out of the machine and the gate didn't open. Waited about 3 minutes and took another chit and the gate didn't open, just moved away. But in that situation, the people that take the chits, they're not going to get charged unless the gate opens, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we kind of think it's an internet connectivity issue over at ROCO. We've had a few of those instances, people coming in, people going out, and it not working. and they're not accessing the help, you know, the 24-hour help call button that's answered 24 hours a day. No, they do not get charged for that. As they leave, they will definitely not get charged for that. That's when they'll figure out that there's a button that they can call for help, and we can reduce the rate and make sure they're being treated fairly.
So is that spotty, the internet? Because one, you know, we've been looking at our smart ramp energy project with the EV chargers and the solar and the battery backup, and cell service in that lower area where the chargers would be, there isn't any back in the corner at the gateway. There is some, but it's still kind of weak. So do you have an idea what we might do about that?
Well, we can look into options for you. And, you know, I'm just thinking there's gonna be some extenders or repeaters that we could look into to reach those. There are a couple dead areas in the garage. You know, all of our parking equipment is hardwired, so it kind of leaves us perplexed why it's, the service is spotty. They call it kind of a clean power source. So we're looking at options for that. We don't have that issue at Civic. So it's something with this one. It might have been due to when after the construction was done, they tore up the sidewalks where some of our internet was coming in, and it hasn't been 100% right since then. So we're still fine tuning that stuff. I would say, well, Vanessa could speak more to it, but we've talked quite a bit about it. It's been a lot better. I don't know, it seems like this stuff, it's all electronic, but you have to dial it in over time, and it's the best we've had right now. In the past few weeks, it's the best we've had. But still, you get that stupid glitch every now and again that they don't have a definitive answer for us. They, as the manufacturer of the equipment.
Sure. And then when a heavy rain, I was there, and John was having to mop up some of the water that comes in right in the center of the basement there by the bike parking.
Yeah.
Is that something that is a flaw in the design or the workmanship?
You know, we just met with Kilborn yesterday. They're looking at that. It doesn't seem normal that there's that much that leaks right to that area. And so they're studying it for us right now, and I don't have a clue what the heck is happening there.
Right, in the winter
Because
time.
it leaks throughout the winter too, which creates a big ice jam.
Exactly, right. You
And,
could skate down there.
Yeah, no, it was, you know, we can get a foot of ice down there sometimes if we don't stay on it constantly. So he said they will have that solved for us this year, but I don't know what that solution is yet.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Paul or Vanessa, Dave?
Mr. Chair, I have a couple quick comments. So that's our parking location of choice when we go downtown, and I would, especially after 5, it's free, so I would encourage people, but I just want to say how well lit the bike area, and obviously there's a secure area, and then there's also a place where if you want to lock your bike up on your own, it's very well lit now. That was kind of the lowest level, and I would just, the other thing is I'm impressed. So there's a door at street level, and then there's a rail to roll your bike down to the lower level. I was very impressed with whoever designed that. That was very
I
impressive.
think that was Kilborn Group. They'd been to Amsterdam, and they have those little bike valleys, basically, so you can wheel your bike down as you're walking down the steps. But it is neat when I've showed people that they go, wow, you guys were thinking ahead. So thanks to Kilborn Group for coming up with that.
And Mr. Chairman, I think Paul and his team have done a real good job at solving problems. From our experience, when there is a little glitch in the morning and it gets reported to the facilities department, I get a report back that it says it's quickly resolved, and our team members at the bank are satisfied. So that tells me that other people are satisfied as well. So I appreciate all their hard work in keeping our parking and it's safe and quick for our team members.
Good deal. See, it's fun to come to Fargo, right, Paul?
I love Fargo. I told my wife we're looking for our retirement home here, so we'll see how that goes.
Paul did start a hotel over by Dunvilla in case anybody needs a room, but go ahead.
Just for a newbie like me, if you have anything that would help me, even supplementary after this meeting, from a ratio standpoint, what metrics do you guys like to look at? Because I'm learning, so it'd be, I'd rather look dumb right now than just not say anything for 2 years. So in my world, like in multifamily space, it's easier for me to understand from an analysis perspective, because if we're 94% occupied, that's optimum, 94 or better. If we're 99, then we're charging too little. If we're 90%, then we're charging too much. So there's some metrics like that, and then also operating expense ratios in new product might be 38%, and in aging product might be as high as 58%. So it'd be helpful if there's any metrics that you guys look at that target that would help me be more educated and be able to review this information with any degree of confidence rather than glad people are using the ramps, but is there utilization rates, et cetera. So, but I'll save that for maybe if you have anything that would help me, that would be awesome.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I'd love to have an offline conversation with you. and
Yeah, that'd be great.
Learn more about your business too.
Yeah.
We're always looking to supplement our information, so.
Right, one of the good things too about bringing in private management firm like Interstate is that they're doing the on and off-street management.
Yep.
And that really helps you understand what's the capacity, you know, and where, what can we do to maximize the parking system that we have in place. So I think that, you know, all of that, again, share it with all of us, because we see the reports and we see the percentages. But I do think it's good from a developer's point of view to see, okay, what are the expectations, and then also what are the different scenarios you might use instead of just thinking for every person we need to have a space for a car. So
yep.
some of those are included in the metrics, and that you know, we can learn from and try to figure out to, you know, plan ahead so we get what we planned for instead of
Yep.
just chasing, you know, chasing after how things are going.
Yeah, no, and I'm a big believer in service value and return on investment aren't limited to fee percentages, because my mentor always told me that what's better to be 100% occupied at $100 less per month and pay a 3% management fee, or 100% occupied with a 5% management fee at $100 more. And math is simple. You can be cheap and get what you pay for and think that you're doing pretty well, or you can get good value and service and better return on investment. So that's what I want to understand. And I met with your boss a long time ago, I think, that one of the owners of Interstate Parking, like
Yeah,
2-3 years ago.
He's one of the
he's one of
owners
the
too.
Oh, you're one of the owners. So
That was me,
was that you? And then I think a bald guy,
Tony.
Tony.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Tony in 3 years, but I met
He hasn't
with him.
been here
and-
for 3 years, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul's the guy.
But that was fun to learn from him, because I'm not obviously educated in parking structure management, which I'm glad that you guys are here. So thank you.
Yeah, Austin's group, Enclave, put in a neat proposal for the Roberts site, but they didn't have as much land to work with. But I liked your idea about the flat floors, even though it costs more to install, it works to be future-ready and adaptable. So I think, welcome to the Parking Commission.
Yeah, thank you.
So anything else, Paul?
Yeah, one last thing, yeah, we were talking with some of our staff yesterday about the 2 hours free, and we're gonna have to do a lot more analysis on it, and we'll come back to you next month with it. But there are a large group of people that will park for 1 hour and 58 minutes, leave, and come back in. A lot of the construction guys were doing that, and there's gonna be a lot of downtown workers that are doing that. We don't know what that number is yet, but we're gonna see what kind of a problem that is. You know, if we come back with the information that it's a big problem, with our equipment, we could probably solve that with our license plate recognition technology, and maybe say, this light, 2 hours free per day, or something like that. But we'll find out what kind of impact that's having on.
Yeah, and that would only be during the daytime hours, correct? So, yeah, I think that makes some sense. You know, we already have a reparking ordinances, which aren't very popular, but I think just by saying 2 hours free per day, at least during business hours, might something fairly simple.
Yeah, we'll figure out those numbers and see what they are.
All right. Well, thanks. Anybody else have anything for Paul? Thank you.
Well, one more thing, Mr. Commissioner, is, we did start additional services with the city, doing some on-street overnight patrolling. We started October 1st, and Vanessa's got some numbers she just wanted to share with you guys.
Good morning.
Hello, Vanessa.
So this month, we started the night parking, the night enforcement, and to date, we have written 1,767 tickets. Of those tickets, 1,082 were warnings. We did start regular citations on the 15th of October. So we've got actual citations of, 658 tickets. We're averaging, when we were doing warnings, it was easily over 100 a night, or during those 4 hours. Now we've got, I think our average is about 50 is where she's at. So it's getting better. We've had complaints, of course, but people understand why we're doing it.
Right, so then the original tickets, the vast majority were the warning, but then also
Yes.
the information, they have the information about where you can park. And then for the tickets that you actually issued, were they only for the people that had had prior warnings, like a
Yes.
regular system? So
Yes,
it's
if
not
they,
like they
if
were
they
just-
didn't have a warning, they got their warning first, before, just like the time zone violations.
Right, and then are you seeing some that when we first started the graduated rate, we found some people that had multiple
Yes.
issues, and are you seeing some of that too?
Yes, when we see that, we saw that really with the warnings, where some people were getting, had 6 warnings, because we did the first 2 weeks as just warnings.
And so since those, have those
It's gotten
same
better.
people now gotten a lot of
Yes.
tickets?
Yes,
Because, one of the things, I remember when I started working at the Radisson, I didn't realize they'd give me a parking spot in the ramp over there. And I had like tickets up the yin yang, and they finally came and knocked on the door. But I guess my point is that people don't realize if you get 4 tickets a month, you're way better off parking at Island Park ramp. You're way cheaper, so think about that. Dave?
Just, Mr. Chair, just a couple quick things. So I really like having that, the warning tickets or whatever you call it, because then we had contacts with the city, with people with concerns. That allows us, there were some legitimate things where we changed some of the things. So I think that was a great thing, and the city staff did a good job of responding, because there were, but do you know what I mean? That gives you a little bit of time to resolve some of those issues. So I think that was very good. And then my question is, so now the winter regulations will start now. So do you see that being a little more challenging, or do you think now that that's happened, it'll be okay? I guess that's my question for you.
I think it's gonna be, initially, people are gonna have to get back into routine. Remember that it's November 1st. Remember that there's that night parking. Because in the downtown area, the night parking is year-round. So basically, we've concentrated in this area. So now we're gonna start working on the outer districts. So I think it will be a little challenging. I think she will be writing more tickets initially, but it's gonna get better.
Yeah, I think people need to get used to,
Exactly.
and there were some signage problems by the Y, I think, and where there wasn't enforcement before, people were kind of shocked that they'd park there at 5 or 6 or something, and then all of a sudden they're,
Well, on Main, there's some signage that we made Ben Dow aware of. On Main, it said Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, when actually it's a Sunday. So people were parking there Sundays because the sign said it was Saturdays. So we're getting those fixed too.
Thanks. Anybody else have anything? All right, thanks. Interstate parking. Next is the staff report with Nicole.
Yeah, Jim's at the Main Street Summit today, and so I'm filling in for him. And so kind of just going through a list of items here. In your packet is a memo asking for your approval of parking rate increases. Jim and Paul coordinated these, or Interstate Parking kind of coordinated these parking rate increases for going into effect in 2020. And as routine lately, maybe over the past few years, we like to start getting the word out now so that people can plan ahead and kind of get their behavior and strategies coordinated for when the rates go in place. I think some of the components that went into the analysis this year, and Paul can certainly chime in, is I think kind of first and foremost looking to see where we can benefit for some income that would go towards the mercantile garage ramp. And so as we look at our entire strategy financially and how that correlates. Second would be starting to look at, where ramps are in higher demand as Paul was just saying. So in the core of downtown, it's going to be a little higher interest versus Island Park. And so we do want to start to get a gradient of opportunities for people of all income levels and residences. And so Island Park enters into that factor as part of that strategy, if you will. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions, or I'll probably kind of channel this over to Paul as well.
One thing is, I see we raised Island Park $1.
That's
We're gonna be, having an advertising campaign on how we want to use this, and it's the most affordable ramp. So I think it might be part of our advertising that we didn't raise the rates on Island Park ramp for a long time, and it's only $1. So that might be one that I would maybe suggest just for little PR. Otherwise, anybody have any thoughts? We've been, looking at this for a few months now at earlier parking meetings, and as I said earlier, we try to do it incrementally instead of big jumps, and I think that helps people with their budgets and their expectations. And people realize that costs go up, and they also realize that we need more parking in the downtown area as we continue to grow with residents. If you have any comments, it'd be great to hear. Dave?
I have a quick question for Paul. So do you think, obviously, we're not Minneapolis, but I mean, our rates, like when you look at the ROCO rate, would you still say, I mean, even if we did these increases, are we fairly reasonable, or do you think we are getting to the level where it's getting to be a little bit too high?
I think in my world, 150 is where people start taking notice of the rates. So I don't think these might still be a bit on the low range of the increases that I talked with Jim about. But no, these are definitely fair for the location and the convenience. These are, in my opinion, the correct rates. It's kind of based on our demand that we're seeing over the past couple of years too. We know which ones get hammered. The ones where the full signs pop on every now and again. Those are the ones that we have to. That's one of the tools we use to manage that inventory is increase the rates for the daily parkers. The visitors don't really pay attention to the rates that much. They're in and out, they don't care. But those daily parkers are the ones that take up majority of the inventory. And those are the ones that we're helping to manage.
Just one more, Mr. Chair. The other thing is, so if you raise the rate in Robert's comment, that's for everybody. That it isn't like there's, do you know what I mean? Like even we have agreements with, people that have apartments and all that, but they would pay the increase too, correct?
I don't recall, I'm sorry, I don't remember what our agreement with that is. I think so. I think we just agreed to give them a certain number of stalls at market rate, so that, we better verify that though. That is, okay, yep. They're paying a market rate right now, so.
Great. Any further questions, Jay?
Chairman and Commissioner, I appreciated Jim Gilmore went around and talked to some of the business owners downtown and explained this thoroughly and why the raising. I know at the bank he met with the facilities manager and others there and myself, and I appreciated that because he explained it, why the rates were raising, exactly where things would be available when the new mercantile would be done. And I think that helps. The communication to, especially speaking as a large business, that's extremely important, and it helps us budget, and it helps us to understand why.
Great. Thanks, Jay. Anything else from you guys?
What's the Main Avenue lot?
So there's a flat surface parking lot on the northeast corner of Main Avenue and Broadway. So that.
Oh yeah, the one they
Gonna
fill in
talk
for the
about that a
ice
little
rink
bit.
in the past? Okay, okay,
Yep, so where the ice rink was for that little bit.
okay. I know where the rest of them are, so.
Mr. Chair, can I give you a little bit of credit? So this is a little bit of off topic, but Main Avenue, we changed that. Now that it's a 3-lane wide street versus 5.5. And so now it's a little more easier for pedestrians to get across. Well, one of the reasons was the governor had this vision that we wanted to have more development along Main Avenue, and unless you change the street, that would not happen. Well, we thought maybe in 10 or 20 years, there might be more development. Well, we've already had interest in that very lot for development now, just because it's changed. So I have to say that I was wrong and you were right, but that's what happened. The perspective of Main Avenue now is different than it was, and so I think that's it's pretty interesting how that would change. So thank you, Mr. Chair, even though I was giving you credit. Thank you for giving me the time.
Dave. No, we had quite a discussion about First Avenue and NP Avenue years ago, but it took 4 years, and we had a dimensional committee that looked at all the different aspects. But all we really did on those first and NP was change the paint and the lights. And in that time, before we even finished, I mean, in the next year, there was like $30 million of new projects. I'm not saying all of them were due to that, but in that corridor, it has a huge impact. So the street design has a huge impact for how we're gonna be able to maximize our values down here. So I just think, we all learn, and none of us know everything, but just, it was a healthy discussion, and people, once they saw it, I remember Denny was not for it either. He didn't show up for the vote. But it was like 2 weeks later, he said, Mike, it's like the skies opened up and everything works. And it was amazing, but it was Mark Bittner I'd give a lot of credit to, and Jeremy Gordon. They did a good job. Thanks. Okay, let's see, staff report. So are we gonna talk about, do we need a motion on the parking rates?
Yeah, if you're ready to act, that'd be great.
So do we want to keep it at 59, or it's not a big deal? I just thought it might be a nice little touch to say that we didn't raise the rates there while we try to sell it.
For Island Park.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's kind of odd, raising it.
sure. Okay, so if you want to make a motion.
I move we approve the rates, but keep the Island Park at 59 as proposed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thanks. So let's see. Are you finished, Nicole? You got more? Okay.
So 4B here, and so we had kind of a late development yesterday, but Island Park ramp and the shuttle and group rate. So Jim wanted me to bring this forward, even though yesterday we heard from Bushel that this is not something that they want to proceed with. So maybe we take the discussion with Bushel out and talk more about this as a strategy, and correlating with the work you're trying to do with Island Park ramp and increasing the occupancy there. And so Jim coincidentally had just received a call from the owners of Bushel, formerly Myriad Mobile, and as they expand, looking for parking for their employees. And it's not uncommon between Jim and Paul and Vanessa. They get calls like this quite often. And so Jim started exploring with the owner there, would you be interested in a group rate and maybe consider investing in a shuttle that would take your employees, from point A to point B. And so, so they had coordinated that concept, and meanwhile, the business owners talked to their employees, and the employees preferred the income instead, and so they were given a choice. And so, as for those that have been part of the Parking Commission for a while, kind of unbundling those options, and the employees really preferred those options unbundled. And so, at this point, in terms of their business practices, we'll let Myriad and Mobile and Bushel continue that conversation. But Jim just wanted me to bring that out as a concept to see what you all thought of that as a policy or process. And obviously this would go into a larger strategic plan, kind of coordinated with you and Interstate in more detail, but just wanted to kind of get your initial thoughts.
Well, I know Dave's going to talk about this further, but, really this is something that we've been doing with Matt Buss for quite some time. Sanford had an agreement that for basically a set rate, they would give, they'd give access for people to basically park and ride. And so that idea about, reaching out to businesses, not only for, like a shuttle service type of thing like this, but also just sharing private parking lots. There's still a lot of empty parking lots or underused parking lots in the private sector that are around. So, ways that we can partner with the private entities, whether it's for flat surface parking and or shuttles. one of the, you know, in the long range, well, actually 2030 plan and in Downtown in Focus, it talks about, you know, multiple opportunities for the way we move around. And a long-term goal has been a circulator similar to the Link. So they're discontinuing the Link because Herberger's is closed and we have some more parking facilities here. But there's opportunity, I think, to have a circulator run in north and south that might be able to add some value to Island Park. And Dave's going to talk about that.
Yep, so I agree, and it's unfortunate, obviously, but I think this is a good discussion, and kind of as a pilot program, I hope this, and especially Island Park, that ramp has a potential, because it's a little bit underused at this point, so I think the main thing is this is a good thing, but I do think this also, when I look at it, this would be the pilot, but then the circulator, this all kind of goes together. How can we more efficiently use all the parking? I think that's a good point. So it's just good discussion, and obviously I think it's one more option for Island Park until, I believe it's not going to be that long that it's going to start being a full ramp, and so that's a good thing. But it's kind of an opportunity to try some of these out, and that's what I like about pilots. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. It's like the circulator. It's like, it's good to try, and then we can, there's nothing permanent in the ground. You can move it to it, try it in another area, so I like that.
Yeah, that's right. So a lot of cities are, you know, light rail was the panacea, and they're finding in a lot of cases that rapid transit's actually better because it is adaptable and flexible. And with all the different projects that are going on, and not only in Fargo, but in Moorhead, so it doesn't mean that there can't be a circulator, you know, connecting the two again someday. But at this time, it seems that, you know, the priority would be more getting the use of these stranded assets that we have, like Island Park. I mean, it's $25,000, $30,000 a stall. Let's make sure we're maximizing what we have. So thanks. I think that's wonderful that you guys reached out to those private businesses, and I think that, you know, the DCP can help a lot with that type of outreach. And Melissa and her team are always working with us, and hopefully with interstate parking and the bid to just make things better and connect where resources are. So any projects and outreach items?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring your attention to kind of 4 items that staff's working on for, hard to believe it's towards the end of the year here, but as we kind of wrap up the year. And one, I wanted to bring your attention to, we did work with our inspections office, and when we installed those pay stations, I noticed some American Disabilities Act issues with some of the pedestrian doors. So we did, luckily we have a team of staff now that are experts in ADA inspections or kind of analysis, and did point out some updates that we need to do with our pedestrian doors. It's a little bit more complicated than just doing it through buildings and grounds, so we're gonna consult with an architect and get those improvements made. And I just wanted to bring your attention to that. We're estimating the cost to be about $15,000, but we'll get kind of fine-tuned costs as it relates to that. So just more of a business item that I wanted to bring your attention to. And then next, this kind of came up in a couple different settings. Earlier this year when DCP conducted the survey on behalf of the Parking Commission to learn more about the public's input or concerns on parking downtown. But then recently with the DCP and BID, there's been discussions on downtown activities as it relates to some policing activities and kind of congregating, if you will, around certain benches or intersections. And so we had a really good discussion at a staff level between various city departments and the DCP. And one of the things that we thought it would be time to do, you might remember Andy and Joe Nig, maybe about, gosh, you know, time goes really
5
fast.
years.
Yeah, but maybe a few years ago, started doing some kind of open houses and talking about with both residents and business owners in downtown. With the advent of the Downtown in Focus plan and with the number of parking changes that we have downtown with the on-street enforcement, the new ramps that are opening up, the strategies that are being worked on, we thought it'd be a good opportunity to do a few open houses. So we'll work with the DCP to coordinate those, as well as common communication and common verbiage, if you will, on some of the strategies that we're working on collaboratively. And then, so look forward to those kind of announcements as we get those dates kind of figured out. And then in conjunction, lastly, with some just general housekeeping options, one is we'll be working with Interstate Parking for a contract update. Their contract officially ends at the end of the year. We've already started coordinating those details that will hopefully have an update for you and draft contract items to bring forward to you next month. And then in working with city administration, I have the pleasant charge of working with each of our boards and commissions to develop some draft bylaws and just kind of general governance. So you might, we can talk about this offline in more detail, but the Parking Commission currently doesn't have bylaws or kind of strict mandates. It's evolved over the years from the parking authority to the practice of today. So staff went ahead and, I know everybody loves wordsmithing bylaws, so staff went ahead and drafted a set of bylaws that are in keeping with some of our other boards and commissions. We did add a component that might be of interest to you from this last year. We've had a little difficulty with quorums. It's a small commission, so we certainly understand everybody has life. And so one of the things we do, like with our Board of Adjustment, who also has a very small commission, is appoint an alternate. And so I was going to bring that forward to the City Commission and the mayor to see how we would feel about an alternate coming on board, so that we would have kind of a backup person to fill in the needs on a quorum. And that seems to help fill that gap when we just need that one extra person. And so the other thing is, not to put Commissioner Pepcorn on the spot, but he's not a voting member technically, and so that would be another bylaw consideration if we would want to do. I did the math in my head, but by adding a sixth person, that makes the quorum worse. And so I'm not sure if that helps the setting, but I just want to bring that to your attention. If you're not ready to act on these yet, that's fine. I know you're just seeing it as a draft, but if you want to present staff comments or open that up for discussion, we're all ears.
Mr. Chair, can I ask one quick question? So how about, this is hypothetical, if I was the alternate, could that be a possibility, or what was your concept?
That's what I kind of was thinking, was something to that degree, yeah.
I have to excuse myself.
Thanks,
I
Austin,
get to
welcome.
have 2.5-year-old dress up like Olaf and listen to her sing, so.
Good for you, family first.
Thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks. Well, what do you think? I think, this first we've seen the rules and bylaws. We know we need to address them. So I suppose we should just review it and then we can bring it at our next meeting. And if you have any, items to include or, suggest, then let us know how that works. But I think it's really good that you've done this. I know we've been talking about it for a long time and you have a lot on your plate, but thanks for putting it together, Nicole and Mark and whoever else has been helping on this. The interstate contract is in play, and the open houses, I think it's a great idea. I remember, I think that outreach is good, and I know that Melissa and the downtown folks can help us with that.
Yeah, and that'll help us with some of the marketing of the changes on Island Park and this. There's a lot of people, we find that there's a lot of people who maybe heard parking rules or issues are components from like 5-10 years ago, and it changes so much. And so this idea of the 2-hour free parking, this idea of Island Park now being open to the public, the on-street enforcement, all of these are just a chance to get that update messaging out there and some marketing as well.
Right. Well, thanks, everybody. Anybody else have anything for bring up? Otherwise, I'd take a motion to adjourn. Sometimes we don't have a quorum, we couldn't adjourn. So let's do it officially.
So moved.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thanks, you guys.